This is Dynasty Portfolio Weekly, hosted by Scott Connor.
Welcome back onto the trading floor for another episode of Dynasty Portfolio Weekly. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and leave comments in the chat if you have future portfolio show ideas. And for this week, we are going to talk about Bengals rookie tight end Erick All. And you may wonder, why are you doing an entire Dynasty Portfolio Weekly on a player like Erick All? And here's the reason. There have been a lot of disappointing tight ends. You've probably heard about them. Guys that simply have not produced. Players like Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews. There's been a lot of injuries at tight ends. We've already had missed games from George Kittle, Trey McBride, numerous missed games from David Njoku, a missed game from Jake Ferguson. There's been a lot of injuries. Evan Ingram working on his third game now that he has missed. So there's been a lot of opportunity to make moves at tight end. So when you look at somebody like Erick All, he's been somebody that his usage has been ramping up. He's gotten some hype every broadcast. I am a Cincinnati fan, but every broadcast they've talked about how the team loves him. They're using him more and more and more. You keep hearing that. People on X out there saying Erick All is the next George Kittle. He's going to be the next big thing at tight end. But let's look a little bit closer at Erick All's profile, and then we can decide if we want to make some moves. I've already made the decision that I'm going to do this show on trying to leverage some of my Erick All exposure, which we'll get to in here in just a second, in trying to maybe buy some of these tight ends that I think can be more productive or simply may be given up on by their manager in Dynasty. So let's take a look first at the Erick All usage. We're going to go to the Trinity tool. Anybody that's not use the Trinity tool, you can find it at ddfantasyfootball.com. But this is the Trinity tool, and what it does is it measures the usage for a player. Not their production, but their usage and opportunity within the offense. And I am filtering right now for the Bengals offense through the second week. Let me enlarge it a little bit for everybody. So here we go. This is excluding week 1, where Erick All did not play hardly at all. But weeks 2 through 4, as you can see here, this is Cincinnati, so you can see where the Trinity score plots out for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Right there, I did an X thread earlier talking about T. Higgins versus Jamar Chase. Okay, Jamar Chase is scoring way above what he is expected with his usage, and T. Higgins is below what he's expected for his usage. So take what you want there. But clearly, these are the two best players in the offense. You would expect them to both command significant opportunity. But let's scroll down here a little bit further. You have Andre Yoshivas at a 4.11. And here, where you see wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 1, elite usage, high-end wide receiver 1, this is just generally where the receivers are going to plot. And depending on the tight end premium, you have to adjust a little bit. But it's showing you the relative opportunity, and you can do a little bit of brainstorming as to what this means regarding the premium in your league. But it's fair to see where the tight ends compare to the receivers. So Andre Yoshivas right here, you see Andre Yoshivas at a 4.11. Now, he's scored 11.6 fantasy points per game through the first month of the season, which, based on his usage, is well above what he would have been expected to score. Probably should have been down here, but he's been up here, largely because he has 3 touchdowns in 4 games. But right here, and here's where we get to Erick All. So Erick All's involvement in weeks 2 through 4 has been pretty good for a tight end. The problem for him is all of these other players, right? Clearly, he's not going to be one of the top 2 targets in his offense. That's clearly Higgins. That's clearly Chase. Right here, you have Mike Gesicki, even in weeks 2 through 4, where Mike Gesicki was involved in week 1, but even 2 through 4. Since Erick All has seen significant playing time, Mike Gesicki is still there. He's still involved. You don't suspect that he's going to go away. So again, not that that should downgrade Erick All from a dynasty perspective, but for his immediate opportunity, okay, you have another tight end that's there that's also pretty good. And then obviously you have Yoshivas here as a wide receiver 3. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. And even though the Bengals are high in neutral pass rate and they have an elite quarterback, it's still probably not a great bet for what you're hoping Erick All to do happens anytime soon. And if we're playing a dynasty game that is a 1 to 2 year window, I'm just not super excited about his fantasy ceiling for the rest of the year. So let's take a look at his prospect profile here. So this is from Player Profiler. So Erick All was 4th round pick this year. Okay, decent draft capital. He's 24 years old. He wasn't super productive in college. If you go down and look at his college production, you can go down and see his college production. And then you can also look at a lot of metrics. You can scroll way down, look at a lot of metrics on what he's done thus far this year. Then you go up and you can start looking at some of the other things you might look at. You might be able to go to the RAS profile and look at that for Erick All. So it's just not an overwhelmingly great profile. Now, he's good. He's shown that he belongs. I'm not going to say this is the gospel necessarily. But again, we're not talking about a bulletproof tight end prospect. So just keep that in mind. So let's go to Keep Trade Cut, kind of look at his current dynasty value. All the way down here, tight end 21, Erick All. Now you can see when you click on Erick All's actual value trajectory. So he started off down here. Before the draft, unknown. Then he rose up to here, tight end 30, continued to kind of stay in this range, and then boom. Once we get to the season, right before the season, he dipped, right? Because he wasn't on anyone's radar. Oh, man, he's going to be buried. And then, boom, right here, starts to rise, and he's all the way up to tight end 21. So in the last week, let's call it 2 weeks, he's gone from tight end 40 to tight end 21. Now, if I went back and looked at all the other names, we'll go back and look at all the other names in here. Not super inspiring. There's a lot of names in here where you clearly go, well, I'd take him over Michael Mayer, Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, Brenton Strange, Greg Dulcich. Like, it makes sense why he passed all those guys. So this isn't a discussion on what tight end 21 actually means, but I wanted just to highlight how much he has risen, and he's going to continue to rise because, I mean, you're looking at some of these names. Why can't he pass one of the Packers tight ends? Why can't he pass Ben Sinnott? Hell, give it another 2 games of Ben Sinnott not being involved and Erick All being involved. He's going to pass guys like Ben Sinnott. How much longer until he starts passing some of these guys? Mark Andrews. Wow, Mark Andrews, tight end 15. Evan Ingram, tight end 16. Both those guys were top 7 tight ends going into the season. That is how quickly things change. So that is one of the reasons why I'm like, it makes sense as he is moving up and as people are saying he's going to move up, it makes sense to kind of decide, hey, is there a reason where I can maybe move some Erick Alls here? So let me go to my fantasy portfolio here and boom. So this is dynasty-daddy.com. Dynasty Daddy. Erick All is my most rostered tight end. And when you go here and you load your leagues, you can see exactly where all of your shares of an individual player are sitting. Now, this is a 2 QB league. All the other leagues that I have Erick All are Superflex. And then they're all different tight end premiums. All of these are tight end premiums. Some of them are 2.0, 1.75, start 2, but all of them are tight end premium. So it makes sense where you look at your premium, track that with Keep Trade Cut, where Keep Trade Cut, you can actually sort by the premium. If you put this here, it's like the extreme. I usually do TE plus or TE plus plus, kind of giving me a better value of those players relative to everybody else. But right here, Erick All, 12 shares across 46 leagues. I have a couple other leagues that are in here that are not on Sleeper or MFL, so I'm not going to share those right now. But 12 out of 46, Erick All, 26%. So let's go down and just see some players that I might be interested in doing some Erick All pivots from. Kyle Pitts. I have 13% Kyle Pitts. Do I want to buy more Kyle Pitts? Maybe. That could be one that's on the radar. Let's go down a little bit further. Jake Ferguson. So Jake Ferguson, 11%. He's probably going to be tough to get given his involvement in the offense, but that's one to keep on the radar, but not one of my primary targets. Here's one of them, Travis Kelce. Now, you may say trying to buy Travis Kelce after the Rashee Rice injury is not smart. I'm going to bank that the person that has Travis Kelce, they've either already resigned that they're going to ride him out and now they're glad they found some opportunity, or it's somebody that really wasn't sure what to do with him. And now they've found a window where they're excited about Travis Kelce again because Rashee Rice isn't going to be there. So this is their reprieve. This is their lifeline to move him. So they actually may be more aggressive in moving him at a better price than they could have moved him last week or the week before, because now it's expected he's going to produce better. So that is going to be one. I'm only at 9% that I'm going to be looking for some pivots. A couple others, if you scroll down a little bit, David Njoku. David Njoku's been injured for a couple weeks. That's another one. The Browns lead the league in neutral pass rate. I don't really care who their quarterback is, whether it's Watson, whether it's Winston. As long as it's one of those two and they're playing the same way that they are, that is a team that is ripe for fantasy production. even if they just get average quarterback play or average quarterback efficiency, their pass rate is going to lead towards fantasy points if they keep playing this same way. So that's another one. So Kelce and Njoku, and then the final one is TJ Hockenson all the way down here. 1 share of TJ Hockenson. Now, TJ Hockenson is going to be tough to buy given how Minnesota has played. But again, you never know. So these are going to be the 3 that I'm going to focus on sending the offers out. And then last thing, let me take a look at a couple recent trades involving some of these targets. And I didn't put Mark Andrews up there, but I'm going to put Mark Andrews in there for another option that we can potentially look at. So some Mark Andrews trades. Let's see. Let me go back to my Mark Andrews exposure here and see where I'm at with Mark Andrews. I think I might be a little bit higher on Andrews. All the way up. Andrews. Yeah, so I'm at 15% Andrews. Yeah, you know what? I can probably justify buying 1 or 2 more Andrews depending on the price. So if you look at these prices, I mean, Andre Yoshivas and Will Shipley, and these are in 1.5 premium or higher. So Yoshivas and Shipley for Mark Andrews. Okay. Here's an Andrews and Kelce, so we'll cancel that one out. Dalton Schultz and a 4th for Mark Andrews. Woof. A 3rd and a 2nd. 26 second for Mark Andrews. How about that? 25 second for Mark Andrews. Okay, interesting. There's Rashee Rice and Mark Andrews, dear. We'll skip over that one. A day ago, Jahan Dotson in the 2nd for Mark Andrews. I mean, these are all coming off another just absolutely woeful game for Andrews. So we'll skip over that. And you can use this tool, the Trade Finder, the trade database on Dynasty Daddy to find some recent deals with some of these players. So let's go look at Njoku. We'll look at one more David Njoku and see what we find there. Now, he's been off the radar for a little bit, so I don't know how many trades are going to be involving Njoku. Only 9. Wan'Dale Robinson for Njoku. Okay. A 25 second for Njoku. Calvin Ridley for Zeke Elliott and Njoku. Keon Coleman for David Njoku. Okay. So not super inspiring. So let's just go and see what we can get done. So here's what my process typically looks like. And I'll come back here for a second. So once I've gone through all of this and I've identified, hey, Erick All is what I'm going to try to do. And for those that have a lot of leagues, like one of the key things is you can't hit on every team every single week. So this is what I do. I record this show and I try to find something actionable, but I usually pick a couple trigger items like this. And I go, that's going to be my homework for the week, and pick a kind of relative range of what I want to try to do, whether it's buy or sell or pivot or something like that, and then just attack it. And that's what I'm going to try to do in most, if not all of the leagues where I have Erick All. So no pun intended, but that's going to be the target. That's going to be one of my pieces of homework that I want to get done for this week regarding this specific player. So let's go and take a look at this. So we'll go over here and boom, there we are. So let's go to Sleeper, go down the line of the leagues where I have Erick All. So I have him in this best ball league right here. So this is a best ball league where I am not a contender. The trades are not great to see in best ball because you can't do it on the desktop. So I'm going to skip over that one. But that's probably one where I'm going to look for a team. And this is a team that has been pretty much gutted on my end. So this is going to be a team where I'm going to go, okay, can I move Erick All? I want to get a future pick. I want to get a leverage trade. So because it's best ball, because my team is not a contender, I'm constantly looking to spin pieces that might be usable to somebody else for pieces that are not usable from a team that's contending. So that's probably one where I'm going to look at the teams that have guys like Njoku, have guys like Andrews, and see if there's another piece I can tack on, or see if there's a 2-for-2 deal where Erick All is not going to get you Mark Andrews. Erick All is not going to get you David Njoku. But he might get you one of those players if you're willing to do a 2-for-2 or even a 2-for-3 where you get back 3 pieces and you give them back something that can help them. So for instance, I have a third quarterback in that league. Now it's Bo Nix, but a third quarterback I'm not super concerned about given that I already have 2 elite quarterbacks. I have Stroud and Mahomes in this best ball league. If I can move Nix for the pick equivalent, maybe that's a second and one of those tight ends for Erick All and Nix. A deal like that. And just be willing to send out 3 or 4 of those and bank that what I'm giving the other person is enough in terms of that can help them right now, especially with injuries and buys coming up, that I might be able to get a deal done like that where I can end up with a tight end like Andrews or like TJ Hawkinson or David Njoku, and I can put them towards my future. So that one's a little different just because it is best ball and it is a team where I'm kind of rebuilding. So it has to be the perfect package where somebody is willing to give me one of those non-producing tight ends. But because I'm not going to be able to do it straight up there, it's not one where I'm looking to add assets necessarily to get one of those guys right now. I just don't have to make that kind of deal today. So let's go to the next one. So this is a league where I am flush at tight end. This is a 14-teamer. Actually, this is one of the ones I did the auto accept trade block last week. And of course, I ended up smashing this week. So I'm back to probably a contender in this league. Now that I'm 2-2, I've won 2 in a row. But it's a 2 PPR. It's a 14-team start 11. And so I look at this and I say, okay, what is my current tight end situation? I've got Kyle Pitts. Of course, I started him, gave me a 0. Jake Ferguson, 19.4. And then I have a bunch of good tight ends on the bench. Erick All, Tyler Conklin, Cole Kmet, Theo Johnson. So I'm okay at tight end. So let me take a look at where some of those other players might stand. Let me take a look at Hawkinson in this one. So Hawkinson is on a team that is currently, that team's also 1-2. Don't know if that will get done. Let's check Andrews. Andrews is on the same team. So, of course, Andrews and Hawkinson are on the same team. And then Njoku. Let's try Njoku. Since I have Deshaun Watson, he's my QB2. It's a 14-teamer. Let's check on Njoku. All right, so Njoku is on a 2-1 team, and that team this week, see if I see where they're going to win. Yeah, they're going to smash this week. So that team's going to be 3-1. So let me see what I can maybe get done with Njoku. We'll take a look here. All right, so David Njoku, yeah, and their team is definitely outside of Njoku and McBride, Tommy Tremble and Cade Stover. So they probably took a very minimal number this week, given they had both their starting tight ends out. So let's go Erick All. And I probably need to add something else to get this deal done. Is there another piece that I can throw in and maybe get back a pick? Can I move Calvin Ridley in the deal and get back a second round pick? That's going to be the goal. Just given that I have so many flexes, this is one of those leagues where I'm already sitting guys like Conklin and Kmet. And so in a 2 PPR, like I have too much ammo here. And I actually just did a deal last week where I added a couple more pieces for a couple picks. So this is a way to probably recoup that. You know what? Let's try Keenan Allen before we give away Calvin Ridley. Rather trade Keenan Allen over Calvin Ridley. So let's try that. And we'll send that deal out, see if that can get done. I don't know if there's a deal to be had with one of the other teams, or we'll try. We'll go to the team that has both. We had Andrews and who's the other one? Hawkinson. So let's go to this team. This is the team that I bought a couple pieces from last week for picks. So they may be interested in the Andrews deal, especially. Maybe not the Hawkinson one. Let's do the Andrews deal. So we'll do Erick All for Andrews. We have to give this team probably something that will entice them a little bit. I have Michael Penix sitting here. That one is tempting. I wonder if I can get... I don't want to make the deal too big. As soon as I try to make the deal too big, you throw off the mojo and you're not going to be able to get it done. So let's see. Do I have a second? The hamstringy thing for me here is that I don't have a specific. I have 1 second, which is Shane's second. I don't have any other second rounders. So let's go Erick All and a second for Mark Andrews. And can I get back Trey Sermon? Trey Sermon may get a start or two with this injury to Jonathan Taylor. So let's try that. We'll send that deal out. We won't bother making any trades for Hawkinson. So let's go to the next league. So next one is a best ball league where I have Erick All. That's another one. Like the best ball ones are going to be hard to make deals because you have to find the right team that's willing to do essentially a anti-leverage deal where I hide in another piece to make it seem like a 2-for-2, because you're not getting one of those Andrews and Njoku, Hawkinson. You're not Kelce. You're not getting one of those. I didn't even try Kelce. Let me go back and try Kelce in this league. See what team Kelce's on. Kelce's probably... The cool thing about Kelce is probably not on a team That is great. So he is on Richie's team. Let's see where Richie sits. So Richie's in 6th. And this week, Richie is going to take a loss. So he's going to be 2-2. Okay, I'm going to try it. So let's throw Richie. And this is one where I'm willing to just do a straight up anti-leverage deal. When I say leverage, meaning you're getting 2 pieces back for 1, I'm willing to offer Richie Erick All and a second in 2025 for Travis Kelce. I might have to throw in, is there another thing that I can entice him to take that could be seen as an advantage for him, but indifferent for me? Let me see. Justice Hill. Yeah, I could probably give up. Let's go Tank Bigsby. Where's that Tank Bigsby? Tank's Bigsby look okay this week. Let's go Tank Bigsby, and I'll take back Antonio Gibson. See if I can do that. So let's try that. So we'll send that out. And sometimes with these, I'm just kind of looking for a response where maybe I get a counter offer. I already got rejected by one of the offers. So let's go on. I want to do a couple more. So another team right here. Man, I've already gutted this roster. Actually, let me show everybody a deal that I made earlier today where I acquired Mark Andrews. Not for Erick All, but I acquired Mark Andrews in a similar type trade. So it's the theory of wanting to buy Mark Andrews came to roost here in this deal. Here it is. So I'm, again, a team that is completely punting for the year. I gave up Cade Otton, a 26 second, and Carson Wentz. And this is the team that has Mahomes for Drew Lock and Mark Andrews. And so this is a team that was just basically like, I'm out on Mark Andrews. I'll take a second. I'll take Cade Otton, who essentially has given me even more than Mark Andrews, even though he hasn't given me anything. And I swapped Drew Lock or Wentz. I'd rather have Lock over Wentz because I think there's a better bet that Lock gets in there sooner. And on a rebuild team, I can probably flip Lock for a third. So I look at this as Andrews and a third for Wentz, Cade Otton, and a second. And I'll take that bet on a team where I have a boatload of picks already. So I just wanted to share that one. I know that has nothing to do with Erick All, but anyway, let's go to a league where I think I can actually move Erick All. Here we go. We have Run and Gun. I don't think I've talked about Run and Gun on here, but Run and Gun is a sweet league. It's got John Bauer. It's got Shane in it with me. It's got old Larry Monkey in this league, Dynasty Hot Sauce. It's got old Eric Vanek in this league. So it's a pretty cool league. It's a good league. It's active. It's a little bit of Devy in this league too. So picks are valued a little differently, but generally still the same, given it's limited Devy. So it's not like the Devy depletion is going to be huge. So let's take a look at this team. It's a 14-team or a 12-team start 12. It is a start 2 tight end. I actually started Erick All this week because you'll see the tight ends that I have also George Kittle. So I flexed to George Kittle. And then down here we got, where is it? I got Evan Ingram. And of course, Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua on IR. So this team's kind of been decimated, but I'm still a contender. I'm still in the mix. I'm still, I believe, going to win this week. Yeah, I should win this week. Facing Shane, I have 13 higher projection than Shane, pending the results of the games that are going on right now. But I should be going 4-4 in this league, depending on where the median shakes out. So I'm still in it. I have a pretty strong team. Just things haven't really broken my way. But people like tight ends in this league. So I'm going to scroll through, and I'm going to try to find maybe a team towards the bottom. And let me go to, since I have Mahomes, I'm going to try Kelce first. Who has Kelce in this league? Okay, so another contender has Kelce. It's probably going to be expensive to get Kelce. So how do I finagle this? Can I move Erick All and Evan Ingram in a deal for Kelce and a 25 second? That's effectively moving Ingram for Kelce, but it's also getting a liquidation second for a guy like All, who probably in this Devy depleted league is worth right around that, but honestly wouldn't get drafted most likely until the third, just because there will be Devys that get drafted in this league before a lot of those like later rookies. So he's probably worth more like a third. So I'm going to throw that out there. just see what happens. I do have Kelce, so if there's I do have Mahomes. So if there is a team where I'm interested in getting, I have Purdy as well, and I have Kittle. So if I can double stack Mahomes and Purdy with Kelce and Kittle, that would be ideal. So I'll throw that out there. Let's go look and see who has Andrews in this league. All right, John Bowers. Oh, I know. John Bauer has been very vocal about where he values Mark Andrews. So I'm going to throw him a bone here. We're going to give him Erick All for Mark Andrews. Now, I know he doesn't value Andrews a lot. So I have to find a way to make this creative. How do I make him feel like he is getting a fair deal? Like he's a super sharp manager. Him and Mitch manage this team. This isn't going to be a manager where I just catch them taking a deal they shouldn't take. But how do I accomplish two things? I want to get more Mark Andrews. I don't want to sell Erick All for the reasons that I think he's overvalued or he's not any good, but I have a lot of them. I have 12 shares of them. So I'm actually looking to reduce my exposure just a little bit. So can I give them another player that could be a little bit of a teaser? So let's go Jalen Wright. And let's ask for, do we have a third in here? No, we don't have any thirds. That's the tricky thing, is they don't have any thirds. I can ask for a sixth. Now, sixth rounders in this league are actually supplemental first round Devy picks. So all the rookie drafts are going to happen. All the rookies are going to be gone. But then right before the preseason, you can draft 6 more Devys. Now, sometimes those are good. Sometimes they're not. But they have a little more value. They probably have the equivalent of like a second or third round value, somewhere in between there. So I'm going to ask for the 25 sixth from Erick All and Jalen Wright. We're going to send it out, see what we can get done, hit send, see if we get a counter. I know John is specifically open to moving Mark Andrews, so that's why I sent that trade out. Let's see if we can find one on Njoku here. Just got Njoku. Okay. So old Joe, I know Joe. Joe's a really sharp dude. I know he's not going to undervalue Njoku. He's also a contending team, so let's see what we can get done. So we'll go Erick All. And I have some picks to move here. I have an extra second, so let's throw in my second, Erick All in a second. That's just your typical anti-leverage trade that I'm going to send out, see if I can get it done. Erick All in a second for Njoku. Let's see if we can get that deal done. Sent. Then who was the other one? Hawkinson. Who's got Hawkinson here? Larry Monkey's got Hawkinson. Okay. Hawkinson's probably the most valuable of all of these guys. Now, I know his team is also not really a contender, or at least I know didn't plan on being a contender. So I'm going to see if I can get Hawkinson using Erick All, and let's throw out, do I want to throw out a first? I'm going to start by throwing out a second. And then I'm going to also kick in my 6th rounder. And the reason I'm going to do that is because right now I am not in the playoffs. I'm 2-4. But if I make the playoffs, that 6th rounder effectively becomes a really late round rookie pick. You're allowed to take 6 Devies in that 6th round. So if it's the 607 or later, it's just whatever rookies are left over after the rookie draft. So think of it as like it's a 4th round pick instead of a 2nd round pick. So I'm going to gamble that if I make the playoffs, this 6th rounder is eventually going to turn into a 4th instead of a 2nd. So if you followed that, it's really just a bet on my own team continuing to progress and make the playoffs. So we're going to send out All in a second and that 6th rounder for TJ Hawkinson. So we are done there. And then one more. Let me go and see where else I have one that I can maybe just liquidate. I wanted to do a little bit of an example of liquidation. I'm not going to get to MFL. Just because honestly, it's pretty clunky to send out MFL trades on here when I'm doing this show. You're not going to see me use MFL a lot just because it's clunky. It's a lot harder to do when you're doing MFL trades. It's harder for people to follow, and it's harder for people to actually see the landscape of the league when you're doing MFL because the screens are very segregated in terms of where all the information is. So let's see. This is another 2 tight end. Here we go. So this is a league where Dynasty Masters, I'm about to go 8-0. And, I don't know what happened there. Go back to it. So while it loads, Dynasty Masters, this is a league where I'm 8-0. I have a pretty strong team. I believe I'm 8-0. I know I'm pretty good in this league. Let's make sure so I don't misspeak here. So Dynasty Masters, no, I am 6-2. And a top 3 team that has always kind of had a tight end problem. But this year, I've ended up with some decent fortunate tight end. Like I started Pat Freiermuth this week, just out of kind of like sheer, that's who I have to throw in. Sometimes you get lucky. I also have Dalton Schultz, and then I have Erick All on my taxi. And it's only, I believe, a 1.75 tight end premium. So it's not to the degree where it's like, man, I really, really have to flex a tight end. Like I can, but this is going to be one where this is just going to be pure liquidation. So I'm going to go down the line, and instead of sending out the offers, I am just going to put Erick All on the trade block, and you can do that here. I showed you last week with the auto accept trade block, but you can do that here as well. You go in and trade block. Oh, never mind. Don't want to do it that way. So I'm going to just put in here Erick All. Let me update the auto accept prices. I don't think I have any set in here. Any 2025, 2026 second. And I'll put in here, I'll give back a 4th. Give a 4th. Okay. Update that. And I'll just put in here at all, Erick All on the block. Any second, I'll give back a 2024 or 2025 4th. Boom. We'll see if any offers come in. And really, this is more of kind of a fishing exercise where I'm just trying to see who else might be interested in him. I got a couple offers today where it's essentially a cold offer of a 3rd for Erick All in that same league. So I know people are after him. But that's how you do it. You either find some pivots that you're willing to do. You either add to him to get a better tight end. You try to liquidate for whatever you price to think it's fair. I'd rather trade Erick All in like a 3rd for a 2nd, or Erick All in a 4th for a 2nd, versus just taking a 3rd. Or I try to add him in another deal where it's a team that I don't really want to give up a 1st for a player, but I'm willing to give up a 2nd, and I'm willing to use him as the 2nd piece. So it's an anti-leverage trade. And that's it. I'll report back. I have plenty of other leagues where I have him that I can move. MFL leagues where I'm going to be trying to do the same thing. And as you see, other than me just giving context to where my team was, there really wasn't any, well, I don't want him on this team. I want him on contenders. I want him on non-contending teams. But the contenders right now, based on what I showed you with the Trinity, the usage is probably not going to be there for him to have the weekly ceiling that some of the other guys do. Just not in the context of how he's being used in the offense. Doesn't mean he can't have that going forward. Doesn't mean he can't have that if one of the top receivers were to go down, if Mike Gesicki might go down. Like there's a lot of things that can change as the season goes on. But for right now, my exposure was pretty high on Erick All. And hopefully this show kind of gave you an idea of how I would go about taking that large exposure, 26%, and trying to move around the board. And I don't need to get 6 deals done. If I can get 2 or 3 done in different waves, maybe one, I just sell him for picks. In another one, I include him in the deal where I pay for one of the other tight ends that I'm trying to buy, and I add him as a throw in to get the deal done. Like being able to shed that maybe down to 20% or so, and then I'm fine. I actually like him going forward. I just don't need that much exposure, and it's taking advantage of a guy that I got super cheap, that I found a ton of exposure on, and boom, now I'm trying to mitigate that a little bit by adding something more useful. And it helps if I add, a Kelce on a team where I need points, or somebody like Hawkinson on a team where I don't need points, but I'm getting more shares of Hawkinson because I only have 1 out of my 48 leagues. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment. If you have suggestions for future shows, I'm going to try to change it up and literally just make this show what I'm trying to do when the week ends. What am I trying to do right before the next set of games? Because we know Dynasty changes from week to week. So with that, I will sign off for the week. Good luck to everybody in week 5, getting some deals done. Beat you.